Hello, PARACONOMY Inc. It is 111 to 112. How's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's doing a good job today. I'm just kind of waking up for the day, and let's see here. Civilian disclosures still have the same group of women attempting to pick at me and try to figure out why they can't have what I have. And so, because they can't figure out what it is, they want to hurt me. But if I told them what it is, they'd still want to hurt me because it's not something they want to do in order to obtain the things that they're claiming are so valuable over here. And one of those things is a fixture in my personality and certain habits that make me way more likely to succeed against things that they're just man-made. And that's something that they don't like that it takes a whole opportunity outside of there we go, got some light. It takes a whole opportunity in a life outside of their own to reach half of the peaks of the success in my life. My biggest thinking is that these women are lacking. Well, we talked a little bit about how last night how these women are a little bit slow on the creep up, but this morning they're coming in with some whack shit. Excuse my language. It's about to get a little bumpy here. Uh, but what I understood here is that these are single moms, and they're not just white moms, they're black moms. So they end up having to play both roles more effectively, and they're trying to mother me. Um, and but they're trying to use me as a divisive tool and staple to be in case their children, especially this one, she's got a boy. And so these moms are putting on this fake male swagger in order to kind of up against um their children if their children become very obtuse like me. And there's a good chance that it could happen, especially because kids been around me for the past 3 years, listening to the things that I'm talking about. My windows are open sometimes, and I've saw them deliberately listening to me over a few of the summers here they've spent. And so it makes sense that these women are drawn to me it's a weird double standard because they're drawn to me because of my strength and my faith and willpower. But then that's the same stuff that's turning them away and turning them off, and it's getting them triggered and bouncing around inside of their anger. And so it ends up with this thing because they're trying to they're already dykey, okay, for lack of a better word. They're already really dykey, both fortunately and unfortunately, they are just women. So in this sense where they want to fill out some of the guy energy that I bring to the table, or there's Michaela brings to the table, or any of the other girls that are also bringing that amount of masculinity into the conversation in the at the Oracle Apothecary and their little cult meeting that they have, because they're not willing to seek out guys professionally. They're only looking to seek out guys as a target. So it doesn't really help the community. And a lot of the community actually is okay with not picking up those traits from anybody. But because they've singled me out, they're trying to make it worthwhile now that they've run into a few hitches that like aren't really giving them the leverage over Paraconomy Inc. and the studies of telepathy, ESP, magic, astral projection, and other things like that that have been disclosed by CIA.gov. And the basically America already has its study. And if they are attempting to bastardize certain desirable functions over others that allow people away from their mysticism, because it's a lot, it goes back to this idea that they're painting the picture that they're masculine or they're more in control than masculine energy, and that that masculinity is a bad thing when it's treated with femininity. So because I'm a trans woman, they instantly think that I've lost an amount of merit available as a man. So they keep trying to test me, they're bullying me. You know, it's a lot like how high school girls pick on each other. Same thing. I'm being picked on by a bunch of like girls who want to be tough and in charge, and they're attempting to adopt other powerful virtues. So I'm sitting here concurrently, and I'm making sure that they can like perceive the fact that it's not really going anywhere. And like it's kind of like not something you can like pry away from, but you can make people's lives worse, especially if they're suggestible. So because they can just talk to me, into my, they've somehow broken some spiritual protection. They've broken some spiritual protection and created cords on being able to vamp off my chakra resonance. Now, this is where they're trying to be Asian too, on top of trying to be men, because they're trying to utilize like chakral pressure points and different things using their voodoo. And they're like doing this like Vindaloo like Hindu thing where they're trying to like co-opt and appropriate certain magic from different cultures, and it's just like an enigma that I have the answer to the entire like puzzle at all. And they're mad because every day their plans are getting ruined with the amount of like intellectual property I'm able to sling here on YouTube. And that's hitting the AI algorithm with these shop names, these women, these actions, and other virtues that are coming up on this channel to help deflect and also create an amount of a barrier, right? I'm trying to create boundaries with these women, and they lack self control to set up their own. So they come back to the place where they had the most control over me, and it's starting to not work as well because I caught on to the scheme and how they're trying to scam me away from money, and they're trying to scam me away from friends, they're trying to scam me away from my family and just overall success, because they've seen men like me come out of the trenches 10 times better. And because they're intimidated by this level of like hyper self-awareness and like focus, that they're having a difficult time attempting to relay the innocence that they added into function while doing something malicious against me and invading my personal space with spirituality and like making it a big deal every day without actually having the capacity to give themselves the release away from me, my energy, the like subdued nature that I lay waste to some of in their eyes. There's a garden, and I've laid across the grass in front of the garden, and now the grass on the garden, it's not even, I didn't even lay in the garden. I'm laying in the grass in front of the garden, and they're like, "Why is the grass like all like stepped on and pressed on? Somebody's been here, right?" And so like they're like attempting to make a bigger deal about like being on the lawn than being straight up ruining a garden. So like that's kind of why I have to look at pressing forward on these guys with their intellectual property and what they actually do as a company. Because if these guys are like straight up scamming people and selling rocks that spy on you, then like that part needs to come up in any of the court cases potentially that happen here in Lansing. And as we go, they'll find out that I've also laid traps while they're like rummaging in my soil, so to speak. And like, if they do it wrong, which we've mapped out enough things, they'll end up triggering off these traps, and that are they're just reversals. They're like reversal hexes. And like every time I'm like doing alchemy, it's transmutating a ton of their magic, and like my end acts as a capacitor towards like the amount of like enduring of their manipulation and bullying and I mean, it would be one thing if it was just like me and a neighbor, but this is me and like a dozen neighbors. And it's like it's funny that they can't take me down, because they've all put faith in the same like vain thing, which is a ton of rumors. So they've all put a bunch of faith in like some of the rumors that have surfaced about me, and why, if I've told these people in confidence any of these rumors, why they're not like actually sinking, because like they've gone out of their way to dig up dirt to put on me, and then attempt to like, this killed Kate Vogel. The amount of dirt this company, Oracle Apothecary, ended up trying to dig up on me ended up killing people. And they might be in cahoots with Sharon Kelly Sweet and the teachers. It feels more like a teachers militia than a teachers union. But they've co-opted into the boomers realm of rock collection and fancy and all sorts of kitschy things. And if those women also just want to be in charge, that they don't actually have the right stories or details either. So if they've gone around me to start dictating my future without talking to me about what I wanted, and then of course it's not going to work, because they haven't figured out what it is that I'm attempting to be a part of, and what I've actually like co-opted in reality. And what they're assuming is that it's a bunch of like pretty girls stripper stuff, but that's not the case. I'm real down to earth, and I've built adobes, okay, mud houses. I've been outdoors, like doing all sorts of hiking, and like I study mycology. I came back to Michigan for like the fresh air, and like the fact that nobody's actually gotten to the bottom of that one either says everything about how effective my shamanism was as I stepped away from the city and some of the more liberal rites of passages that send you away from secular lifestyle, like LSD or marijuana or mushrooms, and then apply that urban spirituality in nature, and like it where it gets magnified and stuff, and clarity like multiplies and stuff like that, and you end up with like twice as much capability and displacement and omnidirectionality and function of your metaphysics, and then being having any access to what they're doing away from it, and also an inane like compellingness to create drama in stubborn toxic masculinity. It's this part of narcissism where women become stubborn like their predecessor men, and like that's usually fathers, grandfathers, brothers, and things like that, where they're attempting to co-opt their femininity outside to a more desirable masculine control over the theology, so that way they get whatever it is that they've been attempting to like subdue using like the Bible, right? I mean, let's try to like diminish this thing. They're a bunch of old. They're a bunch of young women trying to be old women by using the Bible and crystals and all these other things, and it's not really helping out in a world where like if you don't know how like if you don't know how this stuff like gets charged up with vibrational energies and you're just buying into the new age trend, you're not actually going to have any like physics of like vibration or like how vibrations affect the eardrum or how complex transients create voltage along, because these are capacitors. These rocks, as far as anybody really, I mean, they do a little bit, but the reason people like hold them and take them places and wear them is because they're like capacitors for energy and stuff like that. So you can just take it with you and then like bring it back and work on it if you needed to. But that's not what's going on anymore. These women have tried to basically figured out how to make any of their like responsibilities go away because of rocks, and that's basically why they're like I'm getting evicted over this. I've got jail fines over the fact they can't change my destiny because they think this controls the future, not whatever the fuck's in here, excuse my language, but they think that this gravitational pull is enough to like dictate enough grounding in reality when you really need a bag of mushrooms and a tab of acid and some molly in order to be able to like enjoy that. And these women do of some of them more than others partake of like recreational substance abuse. So like that's one big reason why they end up with this part that's like this, where it's like sober living for them, because they go from like recreational drugs to being like, look, I put it in the rock and I can still see it. And they're like, and it's working for a second until it hits up against me. And that's something that I spent 7 years in art school to get good without having to buy a bunch of like gimmicky, like kind of like staples in witchcraft culture. And that seems like a pretty fascist thing to push onto people. You need to hold the rock in order for me to give you sanctity over any of the evil I'm also creating. So like that's another part. It's witchcraft. You guys don't understand about dualism and my yin yang like Buddhism. You guys wouldn't have the bottom end because my bottom end is ridiculously like trifled with evil and darkness and a lot of chaos, and they're like kind of realizing that I've been weathered into this form of like magician. And they don't like it because they can't seem to run away from the strength of telepathy that I'm also able to like project onto this rock magic. But I'm a Capricorn element. I'm born December 25th, 1990. Of course they fucking know. Of course they know, and I'm Hawaiian. My people like to kill each other in volcanoes, dude. My people like if I'm from a past lifetime on Hawaii and like which I know I've taken a handful of mushrooms. I've talked to my ancestors through this portaling, and they've like basically confirmed that spectral analysis of like pre-lives and predetermination and stuff that like yes, I'm a part of this like ancient Hawaiian tradition of like monitoring volcano magic and stuff like that. And like in a past lifetime was like buried in a volcano, which they did that very often in Hawaii. They would bury people in volcanoes and they would come back, weirdly. So like that's something that like they are kind of maybe missing from the formula is that like I've been from this planet before and I've been in several different life forms' bodies. Like, I haven't always been human until this lifetime. And so, like, one of the hypotheses is that, like, I'm a Nephilim, like reincarnation that gets sacrificed and like comes back on Christmas, like all the time, as a Capricorn. And there's like enough consistency, especially that's what I mean, that's what the whole Jesus allegory in the Bible also like references is how Jesus is a carpenter and like he creates the foundation for society and how to act. That's just a general like Capricorn trait of like uh, decompartmentalizing and like diminishing to like multiply and reuse as you organize it. And so like that's one big reason why they probably can't get in. I've already like done too many things. And they're trying to be like, "Ha, we got well, that's all we need." And then I pull out something else and they're like, "Ha, we got and they keep trying to like catch up with the amount, but it's like every day I'm doing more magic or more math or more writing, theology, whatever it is, they're sitting around, you know, also just like doing cocaine, drinking, like gossiping, and like just having like recreational sex, all these other things that would take up your time. It would take up a lot of your life's journey in order to like gain XP. It's like doing all of the hedon. You want to become a full-on hedonist? Well, you have to enjoy this, that for us to approve as a cult of your hedonism, and they don't because of the rumors. And so because of the rumors, people are spinning um all true. No, but like because of rumors are trying to spin, they're not all true. And like that's basically why people are like waking up to some of their bad habits. And as I disclose what they are on a daily basis, the internet zorps them up and it sends them to their family members and friends for them to judge them adversely. So if they just like have to come up with something that, hey, I saw this on the internet, is this you? And all these women and all these witches have to like deflect and be like in denial, be like, no, 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 I am not a part of that. And it keeps coming up for them even through to this weekend. They keep having to like redirect people away from the rhetoric that I'm able to articulate along my life's path and what I've already done in nature as to why nature's magic and spiritual core is protecting my innocence at all and how that's like having an effect on their innocence because if it turns out I'm more innocent here for a longer amount of time it allows the weight to take place where it sits naturally without us being involved, but because they keep pushing on me to be guilty for something, they're like, be more innocent, quick, be so innocent that you fuck up your own life, that they're actually like creating too much capacity in some of these crystals to siphon off any of mine as a capacitor in order to like guard my root chakra or my sacral chakra and have less statistic chances of succeeding naturally. as whatever higher power would want it would benevolently hand to and endow into my spirituality and my path before they could ever make a say about any of those claims. And so, yes, Oracle's Apothecary, Unique Adioki, Michaela Gonzalez, Kat and Sam and Jessica, the trans girls, and like Marlo and Mars, they're like kind of a part of this like Lansing cottagecore witchcraft cultism, and it comes with bells and whistles by becoming more valuable to popular girls who are having sex with black dudes that go to music festivals with the jocks and the military and like all these other things that get co-opted away from what their grandparents do and how they end up with more crystal magic shared as a community to get approval from one another in their hierarchies. So I'm now involved with like upper echelon witchcraft thanks to this company, thanks to my mom. My mom's been doing like new age pagan witchcraft without calling it any of that those things for like a good 15, 20 years. And she's like confused about what it adds into, especially when it comes to things like paranormal activity, something I'm vetted in. Okay, I've been astral projecting and traveling to my parents' like dreams and nightmares for the past like 20 years or so. And we have tried to talk to them about it, and they just don't believe it. It doesn't look good on their Christian lifestyles. So they don't call it that. And in fact, my sister's on the other end doing the exact same magic these little women keep doing in order to hex me. So my sister's even hexing me and gotten my mom and her friends to subdue me with their archaic, outdated like virtues as women and as protectors of women by never actually going to talk to me because somebody told them I'm violent. So like that's a huge part as to like this civilian disclosure and how fickle some of the caustic events and complex events that could like deter their consistency from like say they have like a consistent up and down and then I add like two ups and like a down and now the whole consistency is a lot more lush because it involves multiple people and it has these like flangeles, it has these like little like detailed like parts of now that it didn't have, and you'll see like the wavelength looks bricked out here but then really doily and paisley on the outside because I've added more texture to the situation, to the magic, to the accompaniment of what I also ended up co-opting into womanhood as a man. So because I walked into womanhood having been a healed man from an abusive relationship and went to it for like sanctuary, they're now having to deal with the consequences of backpedaling every wrongdoing they've ever they've ever intentionally or unintentionally put to re-virtue signal any of the stoicisms that I'm holding dear on any of the exorcisms that I've received by Catholicism because I used to have some trouble here and I couldn't hold my own, blah blah blah, and there and then it's biting them in the ass because they haven't no one's actually like talked to me. They're going around snooping for good information in order to use against me. So that's just fair warning. If you come to Lansing, there is a lot of really uneducated people out here that they don't care either. And this is a very common problem today in modern day society. People could care less. So, 141, 328, 2025. I'm gonna wrap this up here for everybody. I feel like this is a good 30-minute talk on everything, and it sort of clears up where we're at today. I might be back again today. It might be another one of those days where I have a few different streams, and we kind of coalesce on the overall atmosphere of the day in order to lay waste. Dyslexia hit me. Lay waste to any of the um, confusion that may or may not have surfaced this afternoon. I hope you guys have a good day. Keep watching. Paraconomy Inc. is here to help guide the way. Have a good day.